In the last video, we completed charts underscore your name, steps 1 to 6. Today, we're going to pick up with step 7. You will see that I have already opened up my charts underscore my name, and I have my directions open. You can find both of these files in your class announcements if you have not started the project. If you have started the project, you will open the directions from the class announcements, but you will open up charts underscore your name wherever you may have saved it the last time we were working. Step 7 has us formatting our chart. And so what you will see is little pictures and diagrams in the directions of what the formatting will look like. So we're going to format the chart, and how to do that is we click on the chart one time anywhere in the white, and you'll see we get this little plus button. This plus button will be our chart elements. So we're going to click on that plus button and our chart elements open. Sometimes it'll open over here. In my case, it's opening over here. And we're going to make sure that we turn on very specific items such as the direction shows. So the direction tells us we want axis, chart title, data labels, grid lines, and legend. So let's go ahead and do that. Axis, chart title, data labels, grid lines, and legend. So we have all of those items selected. We can click on that paintbrush and we can change the style of our chart to a different style. And there are many styles to choose from. We are also able to select individual columns in this chart and right click and change the fill. So perhaps maybe I want to have Mrs. Horton's class be yellow, and I can click on Mrs. Dumas, a column for Mrs. Dumas's class, and I can fill this with a different color, perhaps green. And I can change that chart simply by right clicking on the column of the data that I want to change, and I can fill that. So I right click on Mrs. Horton and I can change the fill color to a color of my liking. So that is step 7, and then step 8. In step 9, we are going to now add some formulas. So in A11, we will type total students. So I click on cell A11 and I will type in the words total students. In B11 and C11, create some formulas to add up the total number of the results for Mrs. Horton's class and Mrs. Dumas's class. I have to think about this. I want to use a sum formula, so I'm going to type equals SUM for my sum, parenthesis. I'm going to select all of Mrs. Horton's numbers, so B3 to B10. When I press enter, it will add up the number of students who voted. In C11, I will do the same, equals sum, parenthesis, but this time I will add up Mrs. Dumas's, and you will see 47 students had voted. In A12, we are to type the words max, M-A-X, and in B12 and C12, create a max formula to find the most selected ice cream for Mrs. Horton and Mrs. Dumas. So in B12, I'll type equals max for my function, parenthesis, select B3 to B10, select only Mrs. Horton's flavor data, not total students, and press enter. And you'll see the highest voted would be 16, and that correlates to vanilla. For Mrs. Dumas equals MAX, parenthesis, select only Mrs. Dumas's flavor data, which is C3 to C10, and you will see that the highest ranking flavor was actually vanilla and cookie dough, so it does pick up that high value. In A13, we are going to type the word min. I will say that if your fill is not filling in these blue colors, don't worry about that. We're going to go back and format that anyway. In A13, type min. In B13 and C13, we're going to use the min formula to find the flavor least selected. So in B13, I'm typing equals MIN, parenthesis, selecting only the flavors. So B3 to B10, I'm pressing enter. The lowest number selected was double chocolate, and that returns that number. Do the same thing for Mrs. Dumas, equals MIN, and we're selecting C3 to C10, and it's going to return that value of 1, the lowest amount of people voting for a flavor. In A14, we're going to type the word average. And in B14 and C14, we are going to use the average formula to find the average number of times an ice cream flavor was selected. So equals average, parenthesis, and we're going to select B3 to B10 for Mrs. Horton. The average of all flavors selected was 7. For Mrs. Dumas, equals average, parenthesis, select C3 to C10, press enter. The average for Mrs. Dumas was 5.875. Step 13 says select A11 to C14. Click on A11, hold in your mouse, over to C11 and down to C14. Fill the cells with a light green color. So come up to our paint bucket, choose a light green, save your file as charts underscore your name. So file, we're saving this in our computer literacy folder or wherever you save your work. Charts underscore your name, save. Probably will ask you to replace it. And then you should check to make sure that you have completed all 13 steps and that you have earned all points. Does yours look similar to mine? The colors may not be identical. Your chart colors might not be identical, but your data should be. And then you will go to our course content in computer literacy in the online school. Click Tools, Unit 4, submit the file to the charts underscore your name assignment folder.